Hello, beautiful beloved beings, and welcome to the Tea Time Podcast, episode 1, baby, where I'm here to serve you up both the metaphorical tea, as in capital T, truths of my existence, as well as the literal tea, the intimate inside scoop of my experience navigating life. Let's go. I'm your host, Alana Parrott. I am a creatrix, performer, award-winning performer, author, poet, all of the above. If you're interested in checking more out about me, check out my website. Everything is linked below. It'll be in the first link in the description, show notes. It's all there. So welcome. Welcome to Tea Time. So for today's episode, we have a surprise. So I need you to close your eyes. If you can, lower your gaze. And let's take 3 deep breaths together. And last one in. And release. Now you can open your eyes. Flutter your gaze open. Voila. The surprise is grace. You have given yourself the gift of grace within this seemingly singular moment. And so today's episode is all about the gift of grace, and that it's really time to start giving yourself grace, because this is what I really came to realize was really a revelation for me recently. Also, for those of you who are sipping on tea, let me know what you're sipping on. I have a concoction of green tea, spearmint, red raspberry leaf, and rose. Put all the intentions, put all the blessings. But let's sip. I have it in this fancy glass to celebrate the birth of this podcast. All right, so grace. How many of y'all give yourself grace, like on a daily? And I actually want to start off with the definition of grace. I have it pulled up over here. This is just a quick Google search. And so when we look at grace as a noun, the one that stands out to me is, it says, in Christian belief, the free and unmerited favor of God as manifested in the salvation of sinners and the bestowal of blessings. So the reason why I like that definition is, to be specific about it, it says the free and unmerited favor of God. So when we give ourselves grace, we allow ourselves to receive the free and unmerited favor of God. Now, when you are in heart-based consciousness and you are existing from heart-based consciousness, and you know that you are source, you are God, you're the creator, the creatrix of it all. So when you're operating at that frequency within that consciousness, grace, the unmerited favor, the free and unmerited favor of God, that's you giving the free unmerited favor of yourself to yourself. That's literally unconditional love. Like, that's how I interpret that. And personally speaking, oh my gosh, to get to the point where I'm at now which I'll take you through the journey. That's what we're here for. But what I realized, and when I was, the moment that I realized that I have truly, on a soul level, internally gave myself grace, because you can do it on a mental level, right? Like, you can be like, okay, I'm actively giving myself grace, but that's still in the mind. It has yet to fuse into your essence, into your embodiment, right? Because we can have a mindset, but then to embody that mindset is a different frequency. It's a different level. It's a different layer. And so with grace, for a while, oh my goodness, it felt like such a challenge. I felt such resistance in giving myself grace, and not at the mindset level. I'm like, well, I love myself. Like, of course I give myself grace. But when it came to undergoing challenges and experiences that I was either that were learning experiences, that were an opportunity for me to gain wisdom, when I was put on those, when those obstacles were presented in front of me, and those learning lessons, in my process of learning and in my human experience, I would judge myself or shame myself for even just having that in my sphere, or for, again, just like having these challenges. I'm like, oh, well, I shouldn't, right? Shouldn't is a big thing. Oh, I shouldn't be experiencing this, or I shouldn't want to do this thing that I know is bad for me, or all whatever mumbo jumbo your ego is going to be throwing at you, and especially your spiritual ego, because let's talk about it. And it's interesting because I feel like, I want to say spiritual community, but I'm also hesitant to say spiritual community. In the fad, I'll say this, part of me doesn't even want to say like spiritual culture, because I feel like we've really, like, for me, it's a consciousness. It's an energy, it's a frequency, right? And to you be spiritual is you to just have a relationship with yourself, because you are spirit. And when you realize that, and everything around you is just a reflection of that, changes things. So I'm hesitant to say, but I like what we've known to be like the spiritual communities, the spiritual fads that have come into the sphere, which I will say, at the time that I'm filming this, it's currently September 4th, 2024, and I believe Saturn is still in Pisces when we talk about Western astrology here. And basically what that means, with Saturn being in Pisces, it's giving us the opportunity to learn discernment when it comes to Piscean matters. So when it comes to spirituality, the other side, I would even say escapism, creativity, but especially how it's really manifesting at a collective level that I'm seeing is really in the form of using your discernment when it comes to spirituality and spiritual gurus. And so in the spiritual community, or in the spiritual like fad of a community, because I don't even want to call it that, but in the imitations of light, or the manipulations of light, is what I'll call it. We see a lot of emphasis on demonizing the ego. I have a whole also video about that on my channel, not on the pod, which is called Following the Fear, which is part of my Conscious Conversation series, in case you want to check it out. But we talk about the ego there. And so oftentimes we can see in the quote unquote spiritual people demonizing the ego, and also not putting to check their spiritual egos, because that exists. That exists, boo boo. That also exists. And so from my experience, my spiritual ego would be going off. Something that I personally have struggled with. Oh, and also like ground rules for this podcast. As I mentioned before, this is about me serving up both the metaphorical and literal tea, as in like the intimate inside scoop of my life. One thing I will say that will not be tolerated on this podcast is any aberration of vulnerability, right? Because that's literally what I'm here to do. I'm here to be vulnerable, to share my story with y'all, and in hopes that it can inspire you to be your also most authentic self, and to have the courage and fully like embodied authenticity to just be whoever that is, and just accept all that you've gone through, whether it be wounds, trauma, what have you. But that being said, I'm going to talk about personal shit. And if you see that as a quote unquote weakness, or like I'm just gonna be me. So it might be crying. We're definitely talking about vulnerable shit. My Mercury is also in Scorpio, so for me to even share this with y'all is like another level. But sometimes I might cry. We're definitely going to be talking about, again, capital T trauma sometimes, which for me stems a lot in like addiction, abuse. Like, we're going to be talking about these things. And if that's a trigger for you, if that makes you uncomfortable, or if you somehow feel the need to want to protect me, one, bless your light. Two, take care of yourself. Because one of my favorite mentors, teachers, her name is Courtney. She is the Divinely Aligned channel on YouTube, if you look her up. I'm currently in a frequency mastery course with her right now, but oh my goodness, I just lost my train of thought. Bring me back, spirit, bring me back. Oh, no, not that. Huh. Wow. Damn, so the closest thing I can think of going from that is that oh, I remember now. Triggers. She calls triggers also activations. And once she said that completely transformed my own perspective of quote unquote triggers, right? Because this is a sacred space that we have here. This is a sacred space. Not necessarily a quote unquote safe space. Safety is implied, but safety to be brave, right? To have the courage to do the things that can seem scary to us, because on the other side of fear can be greatness. So just to lay the ground rules on that. If I trigger you, that's an activation for you. Bless. You're welcome. Take care of yourself. So back to the topic at hand, grace. So how this came up for me, the moment where I realized, like, oh my God, I'm really gifting and giving myself grace here. I am currently, as I mentioned before, in Courtney's frequency mastery program. And it's all about being the masters of our own frequency and really embodying, settling into, and just like rooting ourselves, and also like creating from heart-based consciousness. And so how this came up for me, about 2 weeks, I was actually going to film this podcast earlier in the group. We have a beautiful group chat too. It's on Telegram. And in the group, me just talking, being me, sharing my energy, I had a couple people being like, oh my gosh, you should start a podcast. And I'm like, that's crazy, because I have been wanting to. I've been wanting to do this for a minute, and it's come up in like multiple different ways. I know for my channel, one thing I wanted to do was vlog. However, with my current equipment, like my camera, if I don't have this microphone plugged in and I use the video itself, it will just be like the audio is poopy. So I can't vlog like that. But I personally felt the call in the the call to just share more of me, share more of my light. I don't know if y'all know Emelina on YouTube. Her YouTube channel is I Am Woke. She talks about in one of her live streams, she does a lot of live streams straight like tapping into Akashic Records, Halls of Shementi, just that and more. Okay. She's amazing. But she, in one of her streams that I watched about a month ago now, she talked about the different light workers and how there's two main types of light workers. One are manipulators of light. So they take light aspects and think of like a mirror to the sun, right? See, the sun's on me right now. If I took a mirror, and this is me taking light from source but manipulating it, right? Because it's not coming from me. I'm taking it, manipulating. And then there are those light workers who are doing the work, right? And you know, the crazy thing, I talk about the Saturn in Pisces too, because now's the time where this is really being exposed to us. Sadly, in the spiritual communities, I guess large, like there's been a lot of like scamminess or just exposing light workers as the light manipulators that they are, because the second group that Emelina talks about of light workers are the ones who are doing the work, and they're so in the work and they're so like living that they're not really showcasing themselves. And I'm like, well, I want to showcase myself more. Like I want to share more also as a means to provide more authenticity into this world. More authenticity. That's what I'm all about. Authenticity, joy. But so with that, I was like, you know, feeling the calling too. And so when I got that message about being like, oh my gosh, girl, you should start a podcast, I was like, that's a good idea. And then one of my my soul brothers in there, his name is Mike. Shout out to Mike. He was the one who challenged me. He was like, you know, like I challenge you by the end of this week. He's like, put up that podcast video. And I was like, you know what? I was like, you're not wrong. I accept the challenge. In me doing so, the universe prepared me for that, because I did not post this at the end of the week. That week. It literally, it's about 2.5 weeks later, because when you set your intentions for things, when you, as Mia Magic says, when you give your order to the cosmic waitress, you're going to get it, but you're also going to be prepared for it in the process. So at the time, at that week, I was like, okay, I'm going to film this podcast. I'm going to post it. And then something that came up for me hard was my relationship to Mary Jane, weed. I'll call her Mother Mary because that's how she comes through to me now. But before, I was just like, oh, weed, bud. But so at the time where I was going to film, I had wanted to go out with some friends, and I remember one of my friends had a pen, and so like I started smoking the pen and being like, wow, this is so nice. Oh my gosh. And then I just saw myself falling into old habits, right? But I wanted to experience it. Like literally part of my soul was just like, but I want to experience this. Like I want to use this herb and I want to do this. And so typically I would have, it was basically like a binge smoke, because growing up in my life, I grew up around a lot of addiction, whether it be I mean, of all sorts. Food, alcohol, drugs. And one thing that I recently just talked to my best friend and my roommate about is how in those environments, one thing we didn't realize too is like, yes, okay, addiction, but specifically we would see people binge. There would be binging. And so one behavior that I fell into was binge smoking when it came to weed. And it was at such a low, unhealthy frequency. But this time, right? And it typically the binge would last from like a week to like a week and a half. This binge was about a week and a half. And when I came out and was just like sobering up, normally I would feel so much shame, so much guilt, so much just judgment from myself to myself. Being like, Alana, like, we didn't want to do this. Like, we didn't want to X, Y, and Z. Like, why would you do this to yourself? You know this is not good for you. Blah, 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 right? All the shit. But this time, it was so different because all I had was so much love and gratitude for myself, for experience, for one, allowing myself to experience that, literally just giving myself the space to experience that with no shame, with truly unconditional love. And then it was really from there that I found out how much I was allowing outside people, ideas, concepts, objects to control me, especially in my relationship to Mother Mary Jane. I now, on the other side, like in that moment, I just felt literally the grace of God, the grace of God, the grace of the goddess, because I'm just like, wow, this was meant to happen. Like I'm meant to, I'm so close to the mic. I'm meant to experience this. And it was just, again, so much peace and unconditional love for allowing myself to just be, to just experience, even if it's not what my spiritual ego wants to experience, right? My spiritual ego wants to be learning things fast and manifesting quickly and X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. But my heart, the heart-based consciousness frequency that I am living in, that is my reality, especially in this new earth, it's just so okay and just so at peace with it. And it's from that grace that I gifted myself almost unknowingly. It was truly just like a miracle. Like my soul just did it. Again, in frequency mastery, a lot of the work was just there, but everything happens at the right moment because it has completely shifted my relationship. Like my relationship with weed, with Mary Jane, with Mother Mary, has completely shifted because my relationship with myself has shifted first. And so this is really a calling to as within, so without, if you've never heard that. It's basically our internal world is a reflection of our external. So for me, I was having a very hard time with accepting and loving myself as I was, as I am, just by existing. Some of it I was aware of and actively working on, but some of it was like subconscious things that I was just holding on to. And then and so as a result of that, it reflected in my relationship with substances and how I would interact with them, with weed in particular. I was really identifying with, especially again, growing up around addiction. There was, during my senior year of college, I went to the University of Rhode Island for acting and directing, BFA. During my senior year of college, I had this amazing counselor. Her name is Raina. And at that time, I was working through a lot of things. And I'm so grateful for that time. Because one, I realized just how fucking amazing I am, especially when it comes to learning lessons, life experiences. Like, I really want to grow. She was the one who was like, Alana, you are literally one of the easiest clients I've ever had, because whatever we do, whatever we talk about, you implement and you embody. I'm like, oh my God, thank you. But I remember one of the things that came up was my relationship with weed. And she gifted me with something that I didn't even know the value of until years later, which was grace. She reminded me to give myself grace. I remember being like, I'm doing these things and I'm seeing like, these habits that I've created with this is not helping me, and X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. All that jazz, right? I just kind of freaking out about it. Be like, oh, this isn't good, this isn't safe. Ego. And I remember her being like, well, Alana, one, you have the awareness, so props to that. Two, why don't say next time you want to do it, you do it, you say yes the first time, and the next time you say no. Like, she just put it in such a way that I was like, so this isn't like an addiction that I need to go to rehab for. So this isn't like, honestly, really an addiction like that, because looking back now, I'm able to see how the addictions that were running in my family, like, I really took that on. And I'm firstborn. We were talking about healing ancestral or just ancestral healing. Firstborns, is that a lot of responsibility? I'm the firstborn, on both my mother and father's side. So I was taking, one thing I was not aware of is I was subconsciously taking on the placed identity of addiction within my own life, and I was carrying that identity as my own when it was never mine. Like, yeah, I would binge and I would be very high functioning, okay? But when I realized that this isn't mine and that I don't have to hold on to it, talk about freeing yourself. Talk about freeing yourself. And so one thing I've been really able to identify in how my relationship with Mother Mary Jane, has shifted is, for a while, I also thought, like, okay, if I give this thing up, this will be the thing that will grant me success. If I give up this addiction, right, this is the only thing that's in the way of me succeeding in the ways in which I want to succeed, which was me giving my power. That was me giving my power away to something outside of myself. I was giving so much of my power away to this herb that I was like, well, I can't take this medicine, because that's what it is. I mean, it is plant medicine. And of course, be aware of how you source it, intentionality, everything. But the plant medicine, just wanted to let that truck go by. But with the plant medicine, I was really allowing it to control me, being like, oh, well, I'm not going to take this medicine now, because then it's going to get in the way of this or X, Y, and Z. And then after I've given myself that grace, after I had that grace moment about a week ago, it has just really opened and expanded my heart, how I'm living my relationship with myself. I mean, literally, I just experienced so much bliss. And then when I stopped putting it on the weed, right, on the substance, and I started taking accountability for what I can control, which is my behavior, my intention, how I utilize this medicine. Oh my gosh. I talk about the power. When you're able to take accountability and you have integrity and you're able to make amends with yourself, the power. I realized that I was putting my power into the things that I couldn't control. And when I decided, no, this is on me. This is on, again, my behaviors, my patterns, my intentions with this herb that is really causing that, I have just been experiencing absolute bliss. Absolute bliss. Truly unconditional love. And this is a point that I also feel like really needs to be heard in this episode. Is, for me, here's a T. Here's you want to know the T? T. To me, grace is just the key code to unconditional love. Gifting yourself grace, me gifting myself grace in areas in which, again, I judged myself for. And I just felt so much shame, also pain, but mostly, shame. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Pain or shame? And the amount of magic and miracles that I've just been able to experience is absolutely insane and incredibly remarkable. And I knew when I came out of that binging coma, as I'll call it, that numbing coma, I knew that because again, I was not planning for this to be the first episode. We were going to do a different topic, which we will talk about for the next episode. But when I came out of that coma, the unconscious coma, I knew. I was like, it's grace. It's grace, because the amount of love that I have for myself, I have never felt this deep, unconditional love after doing something that I previously would have bashed myself for. Even just in general, the amount of love, again, that I feel. And so I knew that I needed to share this, because everyone deserves to feel this amount of unconditional love. So whether you're going through, and that's the thing, part of the process is no longer identifying with those identities. For a while, I was identifying both consciously and subconsciously as someone who has an addiction, someone who has a problem. And so that's what manifested for me. But then when I started to identify as this magical being who is just experiencing life in so many different facets and who just really loves herself, and I stopped identifying with that addiction, that alone created momentous shifts crazy shifts is really what it created. Monumental shifts. And so it's my intention with the first episode, that this is the gift that I can simply remind you of and give not only for you, not only for your superconscious self, but for your generations moving forward. May this be a gift that is embedded in your bloodline. May it forever transcend and transmute any perceived obstacle, any perceived limitation, any perceived separation from the God, the goddess, the source that you are. Because it was really in that grace dissolved all barriers of separation, of seemingly separation. And I'm like, everyone deserves to feel this. Everyone deserves this, just simply by existing. And so I've done some really, really dope ass shit, especially again with my relationship with Mary Jane. Completely shifted. Now I'm like, mama is a medicine. Craziest things, right? So my best friend that I live with, right? I was telling her about how my relationship had shifted. And I was like, one thing that I've been doing is I've been adding in different herbs to mix with the herbal medicine. And so I've been adding it, for different intentions and for different effects too, to support different energies. So like putting mint in it when I want to be like more uplifted. And then also I've just been taking, I call them doses. We have a bong, so which is also one of my favorite ways to partake is with a bong, because I love the purification of the water, and I also love to put the ice cubes in it too. I love it. But I've just been taking one hit, which I mean for me now translates to a dose, because this is medicine and we're doing it intentionally when we feel called to as well. I've just been taking one, and my golly, and again, like I pray and I bless the herb and the other herbs, the herb concoction that I create for this medicine. I bless it, and oh my freaking gosh, one thing that my best friend, her name is Zoe, one thing that she reminded me of was that Mother Mary is a little hallucinogenic medicine as well. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And then as I've started to take one dose, sometimes two, max three sometimes, I'm like, I experience the hallucinogenic effects, which I just think is so interesting, because again, my intentions have completely shifted. But it's insane. So if any of y'all have experienced or have like similar relationships with the herb, the medicine of Mother Mary, I'm telling you, try that out. Take a dose, set your intentions, pray, bless, mix other herbs in there, and watch the medicine work. Because that's the thing, like one of my main intentions is just like, please ground me in the medicine of this. Because prior to that, I didn't even, my perspective of this herbal medicine was that it was not medicine at all. Not at all. This is not medicine. What? And I have never, ever, ever just taken one hit. Never have I ever been presented with this medicine as medicine and been like, oh yeah, just take one and see how you feel. And then from there, like, no. So I just feel so blessed that I'm able to gift myself with this experience now, and to really just honor the things that I want to do, because that's in heart-based consciousness, y'all. This is what we're here to do, what we want to do, what our hearts, our souls are calling us to do. And for the longest time, I would shame myself for wanting to receive the medicine and the wisdom. And then again, at the time, that I was not operating in that level, right? But my soul's calling to want to experience this in this way. So I have the tool, because everything's a tool, right? It's really how we use it, how we perceive it. It's really us that can make it harmful or helpful. And so I hope these are some nuggets that you can take away with you today in our tea time. Yeah, so shout out to my frequency mastery fam. I know that y'all are probably watching this. Yeah, if it was not for the support that I have for y'all, from y'all, I don't know where I'd be right now. I mean, honestly, without the program, I'm not sure where I would be. I'm having an absolutely amazing time currently in our last live week, because I started it when it went live. We're in about our last week, and part of me is just like, oh my gosh, like, I'm just so grateful, because like a month ago none of us knew that we were going to be a part of that journey, and especially together, and how I have truly just evolved. I'm just so proud. And again, like, literally the frequency that I'm at, no words, beyond words, as Courtney always says, beyond fucking words, y'all, beyond words. And I'm just so at peace, like, with so many things. So shout out to the fam, y'all. This would not be possible without you. Cheers. Happy birthday to the Tea Time podcast. This is officially the birthday of the podcast. And I'm just so excited for where this is going to lead, but we're going to go from here. And I'm trying to see, like, is there anything else? Because that's the thing, like, this is literally just going to be us chatting it out. Us cutting it up, babes. Me sharing my perspective. Being intimate, babes. But also as a chance for you to gift yourself with unconditional love. Really. Yeah. And I'm just very excited to just allow myself to just show up as I am. Like, talk about the gift of grace. So may this first episode be the reminder for you to give yourself some fucking grace, because you deserve it. Not by anything that you've done, not by anything that you will do, but just by being, just by existing. You're amazing. I love you. I hope you love you. But even if you don't right now, you'll get there. It'll happen at the perfect divine time for you. All right. So I'm going to invite y'all to close your eyes or lower your gaze again if you're in the space to do so. And we're just going to take some closing breaths to close out the sacred space. And I personally, spiritually, just want to thank you, your highest self, your guides, for guiding us to meet in this divine way, for you being here, just existing on this planet, and for you to be open to hearing my words. Ashe. Okay, let's breathe. Breathe in. And out. And in. And out. And one last breath together, y'all. Breathe in. And out. Oh. Thank you, y'all. My name is Alana Parrott. I am y'all's host, the resident creatrix over here on this channel. As I mentioned before, if you want to check out anything about me, I have a whole website. All my links will be in the first link in the description. I do this full time, so if you want to support your girl, subscribe, like, comment, the tea. I'm all about co-creating a conscious community here on the interwebs. So let's co-create a conscious community together, my beautiful beloved beings. My name is Alana Parrots, and remember to stand in your authentic light and shine bright, my loves. Mwah! Cheers! I'll see you next video. Woo!